Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to a jam-packed Bayou Bet show for this July 31st, a Monday. All kinds of stuff going on. In my little description down there, I said, remember when we said no news was good news? Yeah, those were the good old days. There's lots of news going on today. All right, headlines. Alvin Kamara hopes to meet with Roger Goodell. Also, we're talking about Andrus Peat leaving practice with a quad injury. That's never good. We've the second quad injury for a guard that we've had in less than a week. MLB trade line set for 5 o'clock tomorrow, and the U.S. women are facing a must-win in their World Cup soccer match against Portugal. That is going to be played at 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, or this morning, however you want to look at it. It's coming up in a few hours, put it that way. Must-win situation for the U.S. women. We're going to bring in Zoe Collins Rath for that. Before we get started today, a reminder that we want you all to subscribe to our Bayou Bets YouTube channel. If you haven't already, if you're watching on NOLA.com or you're watching on our Facebook, whatever, Facebook pages, Twitter pages, we're all over the place. Subscribe to our Bayou Bets YouTube channel so you can get alerts whenever we are up. Spencer, the Guru Urquhart, is with me. I am Jim Derry. What's going on today, my friend?
Hey, good afternoon, Jim. Going well, just soaking in all this news. It was a busy day. Saints camp, unfortunately, had an injury, and hopefully the Kamara thing ends up good. But yeah, just a lot going on, man. It's that time of year. Training camp's underway. The news isn't slowing down anytime soon.
It isn't, and it's not going to slow down till January. Well, I guess we hope. Jerry's with us. Jerry's saying he hopes that Kamara gets to play a full season. We have seen this before. We're going to talk about this in just a moment. Pete needs to go.
I've been saying that.
He's going to go where? And what's going to happen if he goes? We're going to get into that in a little bit. Derek, we appreciate you as well. Thanks for joining us. If you have a comment or question, feel free to leave it in the comments, and we'll be glad to show it. Let's start with Alvin Kamara, AK-41, is hoping to meet with Roger Goodell. Jeff Duncan reported a couple of days ago that he was hoping to meet. Kat Terrell on ESPN basically was writing it as if they're going to meet. The thing is, get this over sooner. I know Spence and I both feel the same way. We're tired of hearing about it. I mean, we are tired of hearing about when, or it's not a question of if Kamara is going to get this. First of all, he's going to get suspended. The question is, how long is he going to be suspended? I know a lot of you magic carpet riders out there who think the Saints are going to go 16-1 or 15-2 or something along those lines, and they're going to win a Super Bowl every year. Think he's only going to get like 2 or 3 games. You would be sadly mistaken. First of all, I think the bare absolute minimum do cartwheels in your front lawn is 4 games. But I think the most likely minimum is 6 games. And I know, Spencer, that's probably where about you are. I'm going to let you speak. But I think it's more like 8 or 10, maybe get appealed down a little bit.
Wow. Yeah, 8 or 10. Yeah, I know you've been more on that side, Jim. And I could see it, because he was clearly in the wrong. Clearly was on the video, and I'm sure he's going to try to plead his case to Goodell, saying he had bad influences around him and that's not him, which I feel like that isn't him because he's never had an incident like that before. But the bottom line is he did it. He threw punches, so he deserves a suspension. That's just the honest truth. I'm hoping it's only 4, but I'm thinking it's 6 because the policy clearly says for player conduct that 6 games is usually the minimum for incidents like that. And so he could maybe try to appeal, but I don't see where he has much of a leg to stand on. The videos out there. So I'm just ready to get it over with, though. Like you said earlier, just find out what it is, get it set to where then your Saints can prepare with Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller for the weeks that Kamara is not going to be there.
Well, I think Kamara meeting with Goodell is a great idea. First of all, I don't know whether it's his idea or the Saints' idea, and obviously the Saints are trying to do what they can to get out in front of this as well. And they just want a resolution. They want to know how long Kamara is going to be out as well. Now, regardless, no matter what happens, Alvin Kamara will be allowed to practice with the team through preseason. He will be able to participate in preseason games. It also depends on, I think the suspension length is going to dictate how much he plays in preseason as well, Spencer. I think if he's only going to miss 4 games, I think he probably plays very little in the preseason, practice as normal. But I think if he's going to miss 8 or 10 games, I think you might get more preseason work in because you want to get him as much work as you can before that suspension starts. So I think they want to know, the Saints want to know before their first preseason game, and I think they will. I think people will find out within the next week or so. I think a decision is going to be made. I'd be surprised if when we do our Monday show next week, if we don't have an answer.
Right. Yeah, it should be made soon because preseason will be starting up. I mean, Hall of Fame games this week. So I think these potential suspensions that are going to be handed out are going to be handed out this coming week. So I feel like that's why the meeting's happening now, because they're going to get it resolved, to get it situated. So we'll find out. I'm going to say 6, but we'll see. It's going to happen soon, which I'm glad, because I'm just so tired of hearing about it. Because last year it thought it could happen and it dragged on. So let's get it resolved.
Spencer's prediction is 6. Mine prediction is 10, and it gets dropped to 8 after an appeal. I know that's not what people want to hear, and people could say, you're crazy, you're out of your mind. I'm just telling you that the NFL is not going to want to set a precedent. There have been suspensions along these lines before. I mean, you look at Deshaun Watson last year, basically missed the entire season. So although this doesn't quite meet up to those standards, when you have video of a player kicking a man, basically an innocent man, he could have been as belligerent and a big of a donkey before he got kicked as anybody wants him to be. I'm not saying he didn't go up to Kamara and say dumb things and provoke that group that he was with, but when a guy gets kicked in the face like he did, felony or no felony, plea down or no plea down, settlement or no settlement, the NFL is not going to look kindly upon that. And they're not going to set a precedent of we're going to allow this kind of behavior. It's just not going to happen. Jerry says he hopes 2 or 4 or none. It's absolutely not none. There is 0.0% chance it's none. And there's about 0.5% chance it's 2. And I think it's probably in the neighborhood of 5% or less that it's 4. Okay. And like the book of Max says, he wasn't innocent. He wasn't innocent. And I mean, all this going through. Derek says he hopes Goodell gives Kamara a break. He hopes 4, but he'll take 6. I think
I agree with Derek's
take. That's
that.
about the most reasonable fan statement I've heard yet. Because I mean, you just got to be realistic when it comes to this. Again, take your sentiment of being a Saints fan out of it. Just look at it. Try to look at it from an abstract point of view, like you don't care about the Saints one way or the other. You can't say it's 2 or 4 games if that's the case. Glenn wants to know, do we have enough running back depth to cover? And I've been talking about this
I think so.
for weeks and weeks. And my answer is I don't think so. I really don't think so. And I know unless you're expecting Kendre Miller to come in and be a Kamara type, because look, Jamal Williams is great. I have high hopes for Jamal Williams this year. And I think he has the potential to be the running back that the NFL presented to him as one of the top 100 players. That's kind of a stretch. I think Spencer thinks he's kind of a stretch. I think that's right on the cusp. He could be a top 100 player this year in the NFL overall. But we don't know where we're getting there. But Kendre Miller is going to have to come in as a rookie and basically do what Kamara did as a rookie and kind of fill those shoes. And if it's a long suspension, I don't know that he can do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of Taysom Hill touches are going to be in play. I think that's kind of what makes up for it, especially on those receiving downs, because Kendre Miller wasn't much of a pass catcher in college, and neither is Jamal Williams. So even though Taysom Hill isn't listed at running back, he'll probably be seeing a lot of extra snaps out of the backfield or in the slot, or catching the the screen passes and such, because they don't really have anyone else if Kamara's suspended.
They've already kind of hinted that they want to do more screen passes, more sweeps, more things to the outside. And so I think Kendre Miller is going to have to learn how to be that kind of running back, Spence. I agree with you that he didn't do a lot of it in college. I mean, I don't have to not agree. It's a fact. I mean, anybody that watched him knows that he didn't. But I think he's going to have to become that kind of running back. He's going to have to be complementary to Jamal Williams. There's no question the Saints are going into the season expecting Jamal Williams to be a feature back. And again, even if you get lucky and it's only 4 games, that's a month. That is 1/4 of your season at the bare minimum, 4 games at the bare minimum. So you're hoping Jamal Williams can be that feature back. And I will say this, if you think the Saints are not going to be as good as everyone thinks they're going to be, which is kind of like the the press has been, the local press is kind of getting their high hopes up again. It's kind of getting like last year. Now is the time to bet these numbers because these numbers are going to get worse. Saints to win Super Bowl plus 3,500. First of all, it's plus 4,000 just about everywhere else but Caesars Sportsbook, which by the way is the official odds partner of bet.noah.com. 1,400 to win the NFC. All these numbers are going to get worse. So if you like to bet against the Saints, I think now is the time because I don't think your odds are going to get better. I don't know. We'll see. I want to get on to the other news of the Saints story today. And in case you didn't hear about it earlier this morning in camp, Andrus Peat already injured. I mean, I've got a bunch. I can't say a bunch. I've got a few guys who like to. I've been trying to take up for Andrus Peat as much as I can. The dude just gets hurt. And when I say take up for him, I mean he's not as bad as everyone. People just call him a bum. He's not a bum. When he plays, he's a good player. The problem is that he's oft injured. And to be injured already this early in training camp, man, especially when Trey Turner, you sign Trey Turner, you think you're going to have depth at guard, Spence, and already Andrus Peat is injured, and that is just not good news for this team.
Right. Yeah, it just goes to show that the rookie Nick Saliveri is going to probably see a lot more playing time than the team was hoping for, considering he wasn't that high of a draft pick, but he's someone that is a good prospect that might be capable of stepping up because we've seen it before that guards do well that weren't drafted. I mean, look at Jari Evans way back in the day. He wasn't a high pick.
Bloomsburg College.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame caliber guard. So you never know. So hopefully, not saying Saliveri is the next Jari Evans. We just need him to plug the starting spot probably for a few weeks because Andrus Peat is, you already know, it's like Teron Armstead. It was like you already knew Teron Armstead was going to miss time, at least 3 or 4 games. Guys like Andrus Peat and him, it's like you already know they're going to miss time. Hopefully Trevor Penning doesn't become that as well. The Saints need Trevor Penning to stay healthy because if that left side offensive line has 2 backups, then Derek Carr's blind side is going to be under siege week after week. And I know Carr's been durable throughout his career, but if you're taking a lot of hits, it's not fun back there. I know they got Jameis in case of something, but if Carr goes down, then all bets are off because they're catering this offense to his skill set.
Oh, there's zero question about that. And I know there's going to be a lot of talk this week, and people, as preseason starts, is when the predictions really get rolling. We're doing our NFL predictions, moving on the NFC West this week. We're going to review our AFC South predictions in just a little bit, but I agree 100%. I mean, this offensive line, Spencer, you know how I feel about O-line. I think that quarterback obviously is the most important. You touched on it. I think the local press feels like that Derek Carr is the first real quarterback that's been here since Drew Brees has left. I mean, my opinion is partly because Jameis Winston didn't get enough of a chance. But regardless, I mean, Carr has got to stay healthy. I mean, they are changing this offense, as you said, to go along to Derek Carr's strength, and that goes a lot with talk about the screen game. You're going to involve the tight end a lot more than probably you have been in the past. You'll have more plays to go deep than you've done maybe in the past 5 or 6 years because Drew Brees really wasn't able to go deep the last couple of years of his career. So I think we'll see a lot more. I think Rashid Shaheed's going to be way more involved in this offense than maybe he was. Maybe he has a breakout kind of year. So I think all that hinges on if you have a good offensive line. Spence, you can't throw deep without a good O-line.
Yeah, that's very true. And, I mean, a guy like Derek Carr, if he's under pressure, he's not afraid to go short either. I mean, he's got a good overall skill set.
Right.
I think he's good at taking what the defense gives him. But, yeah, if he's not getting protection, then it'll be like the Drew Brees offense all over again, which the thing with Drew Brees was even in his older years, he was just such a pinpoint passer and knowing how to get into space and knowing which guy had a good chance to get yards after the catch. Where, like, with Carr, it's like, I mean, I'm not saying he's bad at that, but he feel like he kind of needs a little more time to kind of let the whole field develop, where he had some slot guys that he liked, Renfro and Waller, but he also really liked Devontae Adams, which I think Chris Olave is going to play the Devontae Adams role, which is kept the Raiders offense afloat last year, where if they don't have time to get that aspect really going with Olave and Shaheed, then it's not going to come together, and it's going to be another long season on offense. So hopefully this Peat injury doesn't linger. Hopefully it's just a few weeks and it's not as serious as Turner. So hopefully it doesn't become worse.
And if you're Derek Carr, you're like going, not again. I mean, half the reason why he left the Raiders because he had his dispute and he was yanked the last couple of games. But, in leaving the Raiders, that he wanted to go somewhere where he felt good about their offensive line because, frankly, Derek Carr is never. I mean, people want to rail on Derek Carr and look at some of his numbers and his completion percentage. The fact is, he's never had an offensive line that was better than 20th throughout his entire career. Never had an offensive line better than 20th. In fact, more than half of his career, he's had an offensive line that ranked in the bottom 4. So that's just the way that it is. So he was hoping to get a chance to come here, have a new start, and have a good O-line. And now I don't know if we have that or not. Glenn Illich asked, does Carr have the ability to scramble or run? More so than I think people think so, Spence, as we're about to move on. But he doesn't run a whole lot, but can run if he wants to.
Yeah, that's not his strength, though. Right. I mean, the way they're building the offense, the Saints' offense is dependent on that O-line because, I mean, the only time they didn't have it like with the Taysom offense, which was just kind of like, I mean, it was just ugly. I mean, I like Taysom, but just him as the quarterback, the Saints, Pete Carmichael's playbook, I don't think big enough to incorporate a lot of RPO. I think he's been in the game a while to where he's a pocket guy. He wants a pocket passer. That's why the Saints wanted Derek Carr and brought back Jameis Winston, guys that have big arms and sit in the pocket. Yeah. So
absolutely.
I don't see him running a whole lot unless it run. Hopefully not running for his life.
Well, we'll see how that goes.
I don't see many designed runs happening for him.
But I also think, and one thing we talked a little bit about in pre-production, I think there's a decent chance that the Saints may have to make a trade for a guard. I mean, you can count on Nick Saldiveri all you want, even if it's for someone that's going to be in the backup capacity. The Saints will be watching the waiver wire very closely. So offensive linemen that get trimmed in this part of camp when they start knocking rosters down, the Saints will be watching scouring the waiver wire, and there's definitely potential for a trade. I'm fairly certain, and I haven't looked this past week, but the Saints are in pretty good shape, and you don't say this very often, pretty good shape when it comes to cap space, in-season cap space. So I would say that there's a decent chance that they do have room to bring in another guard or any lineman, a versatile lineman like a James Hurst, if they could do that, because James Hurst is clearly a major asset, and there's no doubt that he's going to play a lot and all over the place as we go along. Let's show you the Super Bowl odds as we go along. About to move on here. We're going to come back to the NFL at the very end of our show because both of our rants have to do with the NFL. And you look at some of these odds, Spencer, before we move on, is there anything that sticks out? Again, we're just starting our NFL previews here. We talk about the AFC South. There's no one from that division that I really like Super Bowl wise, but as far as value, is there anything that sticks out on you in this list?
Yeah, that's a hilarious thing to me on here is the Jets Ravens. They're right in the middle there. That should be flip flopped. I mean, there's no way that you can convince me that the Jets are a better team than the Ravens. Like if the Ravens are healthy, to me they're right up there with the Bengals. I could see them dethroning the Bengals for AFC North title with a healthy Lamar. Where with the Jets, it's like, I mean, for one, their division's a little tougher. You got Buffalo and Miami, which Miami I think could be a little bit of a value at 2,500 because if Tua's healthy, I could see them taking the division. So with the Jets, it's like, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old, people. I mean, let's be honest. He's not going to be quite as sharp. He's got weapons though, which will help. Kind of like with Brady, even though Brady wasn't.
He's also got he's also got a running game.
Yeah, we'll see if they bring in Dalvin Cook. I mean, I think this is kind of contingent on that. Then I could maybe see it. But I still, though, it's just inexperience. Salah's an inexperienced head coach. A lot of young pieces there. Will the Young and the Rodgers, will that all gel? We're not sure. So to me, it's just too many what ifs to justify that plus 1,600 tag. That's you're paying a tax there, the Aaron Rodgers tax.
I got the Jets at plus 3,500 before Aaron Rodgers even signed. I think that's an absurd number at plus 1,600. So I'm with you on that aspect. I don't know if I agree about the Ravens. I don't know why they're any better than they were before. We'll see.
Core.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Lamar still has to prove to me that he can get it to him. He has never proven that to me, ever. He is the best running quarterback that has ever played this game, in my opinion. But he still has something to prove as far as can he win big games and get to a Super Bowl. I'm not sure that he can. But at the same time, I don't think plus 2,000 is a bad number. So I agree with you. I'd probably flip-flop those numbers as well. My numbers for value, I have two of them. They're both near the top, and I don't usually like teams near the top for value. This is the best number you could get the Buffalo Bills before the season in a few years now, plus 900. I know it's not a major value, but the fact that no one's talking about them, and I understand that they lost Leslie Frazier as the defensive coordinator, but I just think that they are a value of plus 900. They're kind of lying in the weeds. People are loving to pick the Dolphins. The Dolphins are this major trendy pick, and I am with you that if capital I, capital F, Tua stays healthy, Miami is a value of plus 2,500, but I don't think that he's going to stay healthy. I mean, he's proven that he can't stay healthy, so I just can't bet on that. I think the Bills are a major value at plus 900. And no one's going to like my next pick because they just don't like this team. But I think the Dallas Cowboys at plus 2,500 are a value. 1,500, excuse me. I think they're a value at plus 1,500. I think they're going to win that division. I think Philadelphia had just all these things happen for them right. I think Jalen Hurts is going to regress. And look, he's on my fantasy team, so I hope I'm wrong about that. But I think the Eagles are in for a major step backward. I really do. And when I say that, I think they'll still make the playoffs. But because they have the best offensive line in football, but I still think they're going to take a major step backwards. And I think the Cowboys are going to win that division. I think they're going to finish 12-5 again. That will be good enough to win the division. We'll see. Anyway, those are my values. We're going to come back to the NFL before we wrap the show up today. There are two other topics that we need to talk about, and this one's going to be brief. Spencer, the MLB trade deadline is tomorrow at 5:00 Central Time. We have not seen a whole ton of big moves. We saw Max Scherzer get moved. We saw the Angels decide they were not going to be sellers. They were going to be buyers. They brought in Lucas Giolito. There's talk that Justin Verlander also may be moved from the Mets as they are obviously selling, and the Mets are obviously the biggest disappointment of this year. What do you see for tomorrow? Do you see a lot of movement coming on?
I could see Verlander getting moved because to me, the Mets are in a position where you don't want to completely blow it up, but you definitely want to get rid of like guys like him and Scherzer. That it's just like you're not going to be probably quite ready next year, and then by 25, if everything goes right, they're going to be too old at that point. Right. So you might as well move those guys. So I think Verlander gets moved, and the team that I think the Astros are going to try to get him back. I mean, like they did a few years ago, got him at the deadline. And bro, I mean, that would counter the Rangers getting Scherzer because I noticed the odds didn't really move that much. I thought it would have, maybe the Rangers would have passed up the Astros, but I think they're thinking that Verlander's probably going to end up back in Houston. And the Rays made a little move today to get a pitcher for the Guardians, Savali, I believe his name is. He's pretty solid there. So they're gunning for a run, and the Orioles plus 1,200 could be sneaky. There's a lot of the AL is freaking loaded. The Braves and Dodgers have it. I don't want to say easy, but compared to the AL, it's kind of like the AFC NFC thing. It's just like it's kind of the not that imbalanced, but it's kind of like the AL is definitely stronger. There's a lot more big dogs there.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think that I feel the same way. Depending on Verlander, definitely he could go to Houston again. And then does that make Houston a value of plus 750? Maybe you need to jump on him now. I just don't like where their record is. They're not going to win the division. The Rangers are going to win that division. And speaking of the Rangers, I mean, maybe they're a value. You look on this list at plus 850. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's kind of up there, I guess, to say. We'll see. Plus 850, I'm not 100% sure about whether that's a value or not. But we're going to talk more about baseball probably Thursday after the deadline and again going down the stretch. We're going to bring in Zoe Collins Rath now because it's time to talk about soccer. I mean, and she needs to be in the big spot, not me. But let's talk about soccer a little bit, Zoe. Obviously tonight, well, say tonight. For me, it's tonight. For other people, it's tomorrow morning. I either stay up and watch at 2 a.m., which I don't know. Maybe I'll watch the first couple minutes. I don't know. Or you just go to bed at in an hour and wake up. Either way. But they play at 2 a.m. against Portugal in a must-win situation.
Yeah, and for the record, I'm not excited about them playing at 2 a.m. I love my sleep. I value my sleep. I will turn into more of a sassafras than I already am if I don't get a good night's sleep. But Jim, you're right. It's like similar to in a league of their own. There's no crying in baseball. There is no tying and no getting eliminated in the group stage for the U.S. women's national team. It just doesn't happen. It's unprecedented. And you're right. Against Portugal, it is do or die. The only thing they have to do is just win the game, and then they're fine. But clearly against the Netherlands, they struggled and they had their issues. And like I said, when I came on to talk about it, a few weeks ago, the game against the Netherlands is going to be a good gauge to see how well they will do in the group stage. You know, if your coach doesn't take advantage of subs, and if you don't make changes to how you're playing on the fly, and your key goal scorers, such as Alex Morgan and as Sophia Smith did in the first game, you're going to get a draw. And that's not good enough for this team.
Yeah, this team, they've been a disappointment so far, but tonight could be a night for them to get back on track. How important do you feel it is for the U.S. to not only win, but to win by multiple goals?
Really huge, because I don't think you want any sort of situation or scenario where their chance at first place is going to be put into question. You don't want them any more stress than they already are. So if they can literally take care of business tonight and play like they should have done in the first game and have maybe at least 4, maybe 5 goals tonight, that will be a huge help and put a good stamp and say, you know what, we're back and we're going to win this tournament.
What about odds tonight and then overall for the tournament? I actually think there might be not that I'm a huge soccer betting kind of guy, but I think minus 410 isn't a bad number, because obviously knowing that they have to win, if they're not on their A game tonight, they're not going to be on their A game at all for me. And then, so I'd like to get your thoughts on that. And then also you talk about they're still the favorites to win this tournament at plus 275. That to me is a crazy number.
It is. And, you know, Rocking Chalk with the United States is a really easy choice. But the problem is, since they're so inconsistent, I don't see any value with that. And the only value that I see on this board is England and Germany. And oh, wait a minute, I said that when the tournament started. I can't even talk today. I need caffeine. But you cannot. But with the position that the United States is in, they can't. No win is a guarantee, and it's not a lock the way it is for previous years. And our job is to help educate people and help them make informed decisions. I would not put a future on Team USA to win. I just wouldn't do it, because it's not great value. It's a little bit shaky, and there's no guarantee picking anyone from the field is going to be your best option.
Minus 410, you like it tonight?
Yeah.
I'm going to put $41 down to win 10.
Honestly, with how they've been playing, I personally, if this game was a pick'em, I would probably choose the U.S. women's national team, and then maybe 5 minutes later, I would hedge and put some money down on Portugal. You know, they're not who they should be, and they need to prove who they are.
All right. Well, we'll find out at about 2 a.m., which means we'll find out by 4 a.m. I personally am probably not staying up till 4 a.m. and I'll find out in the morning, but who knows? Maybe I'll put it on and fall asleep to it. I don't
know. Who knows? I mean, listen, I'm on the late shift tonight on the desk at 8 o'clock. I need to eat.
Well, you know, figure it out. You get yourself about a gallon of coffee, and who knows? Maybe you can make it through.
Anything is possible. It's the World Cup.
Zoe Collins Rath, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Zoe.
Well, you know, that's a tough time, I think, for all of us.
That's just man. It's like, unless they go to the bar, they go to 2 a.m. Like a lot of bars be shutting down at that point. Out here in NOLA, they stay open later. So
there's no doubt about that.
Might be able to find somewhere to watch it.
All right, time to get back into the NFL. And before we get to our rants to close out the show, a reminder that Datitude is previewing the NFC West. We're back to our previews. Every Tuesday through Friday, we do one team. We do a division a week for 7 weeks, one division. I think the last week of August, we're doing 2 divisions, but it's basically one team a day, Tuesday through Friday. Last week, we did the AFC South. This week, we're doing the NFC West. I wanted to get Spencer's take on, look, this is a very tentative, and I said this in my preview, Spencer, I'm not high on the Jaguars at all. I put them at 11-6 because, first off, this division has an easier schedule, kind of like the NFC South. So I think the top 2 teams in this division aren't getting enough, I guess, love, because I think that their records might be a little bit better than people think they are, only because their schedule's a little bit easier than it was last year. That being said, I don't know how much value there is in the Jags. I know that people are loving them and thinking Trevor Lawrence is he had a great year last year, 4,300 passing yards. If you think he's going to do that again, I think they're a lock to win the division. I'm just not sure that's where he is. Although I picked him, but again, begrudgingly, I think the Titans are going to give him a run for their money.
I think people are sleeping on the Texans a little bit. I see Lloyd commenting here. Don't see the Texans winning 5 games. I see him winning more than 5. I see him winning 7 or 8. I think the Texans might pass up the Titans this year.
I don't disagree with you.
Even with DeAndre Hopkins, I'm just kind of concerned about the Titans secondary. Mike Vrabel, though, is a really good coach, so it could still be in the mix a little bit. But I think the Texans with D'Amico Ryans, I think it kind of, those former defensive players a lot of times make good head coaches. So I'm thinking that those, like,
does that mean you think
Colts have no chance?
Does that mean you think the Cardinals are going to be good? I mean, Jonathan Gannon. I mean, is he gonna? We'll get
I don't. That's a whole different story. But
Wood wants to know if Ryan suiting up. Look,
Will Anderson suiting up. That's gonna make a big difference over there.
I don't disagree with that. I disagree with. I think they're gonna be in the running with the Titans because everybody. It's amazing. It boggles the mind how many people hate the Titans, and I don't mean hate them in the sense of the Saints fans hate the Falcons. I mean, just hate them as far as winning. Every bettor I know, every prognosticator, analyst on the planet hates the Tennessee Titans. They did last year, but they hated them the year before that, and they were the number 1 seed in the AFC. So I think Ryan Tannehill coming back is going to really help this team. I think their defense is underrated. It's the question of, will their revamped offensive line hold up? Will Derrick Henry be able to hold up through an entire season? And that's a big question. So, but I think DeAndre Hopkins helps. I do think the Texans will be much better in 2024. I think they're going to go through some growing pains. I love D'Amico Ryans. I think he's the right guy for that job. But I think they're a year away from doing anything special. So, again, begrudgingly, I picked the Jaguars, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Titans won this division. And I think last pace, I know some people like Indianapolis, and Lloyd says the Texans win 8 games means that Stroud will be a rookie of the year. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I think he's going to be decent. I think he'll be decent in his rookie year.
He'll be in the running. Him, Bryce Young, Bijan Robinson, Zay Flowers, the Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's going to be an interesting rookie of the year race.
For sure. But that leads into our rant because we both think the Colts will stink. Jonathan Taylor is begging to be traded. It's not going to happen because Colts management is awful. And your rant today is Jim Irsay is a complete moron. He's been a complete moron. That is, he is, was, has been, always will be a moron. It's just that he's getting noticed more because the Colts are about to go back to where they used to be in El Stinko territory.
Yeah, back before Peyton Manning, which I don't really. That was a little before my time, so I didn't realize just how much of a moron Irsay is. But seeing what he's been doing these past couple of years and hiring Jeff Saturday, dude was sitting on his couch, a TV analyst, brings him in to be their head coach last year. The wheels fall off, and now he's pissing off the best player on their roster. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, I mean, Jonathan Taylor, he had a running back positions not quite as prevalent as it used to be. But the fact is, Jonathan Taylor is still an elite offensive player. He's the by far the best thing they've got on offense. And if he doesn't report, which if I'm Jonathan Taylor, if you don't trade me, I'm sitting out. I mean,
I agree 100%.
There's no point in playing for that train wreck. I mean, Anthony Richardson, they're going to start week 1. I think he's got potential, but he's going to be terrible as a rookie. He's too raw. He wasn't even that good last year with Florida.
He'd be terrible as a second-year player, too.
Point is this dude doesn't know what he's doing. He's just, I mean, and now that Snyder's out of there, he's the new whipping boy as far as this. There's always seems like there's this one moron owner, and then now he's the one that's in the spotlight. So, sucks to be a Colts fan. It's going to be another long season in Indianapolis.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that I agree. I'm spot on with if you're Jonathan Taylor and you're still playing on your rookie contract and you have a chance to make many, many millions going forward, 99.5% of the time, I would never advocate sitting out a season because of you only get so many seasons in the NFL and what you gain and what you lose, and it's not worth losing the money for a season. But in this case, I think Jonathan Taylor has more chance of having some career-ending injury on an awful team than getting anything out of playing this year. And if they don't want to trade him or redo his contract now, which they clearly don't want to do, and that's because of their moron owner, then sit out. I'm all for it. I mean, Bobby Hebert did it for the Saints. I didn't love it way back when in the 80s, but it worked out for him, and he ended up getting paid for it later because the Saints were terrible with Steve Walsh as their quarterback, and it ended up getting Bobby Hebert a nice contract to come back and work. It doesn't always work, but I think in this case I agree with you. If I'm Jonathan Taylor, I'm not playing football unless something major gets done real soon. My rant is about the New Orleans Saints. And I got to be honest, man. I've been high on the Saints, but the more I see the New Orleans media going gaga again, I'm not going to be dumb enough to do this again. Last year, I said the easiest bet on the board was the Saints over 7.5 wins. I got it when it was still 7.5, and they still couldn't win 8 games. It went up to 8.5, and the New Orleans media, Jeff Duncan polled 27 New Orleans media members last year before the season. All 27 said they would win more than 8.5 games. That's when I knew that I was screwed. That bet was done for. And I'm starting to get those same feelings again. We're 1 week in the camp, and I don't want to be Derry Downer again, but look, when you lose a guy like Trey Turner, you bring in for experience as a backup, and you know he's probably going to get plenty of chances to start, and he goes down on day 2 with a quadriceps injury that's going to kill his season. And then 3 or 4 days later, your starting guard, Andrus Peat, who is constantly hurt, is hurt again, and your offensive line is in just miserable shape already. And you're talking about needing your rookie, your 4th or 5th round pick, Nick Saldivari, 6th round pick. What was it, Spencer?
I think 5th.
5th round pick. You can't be counting a 5th round pick to be a starter on your offensive line. We don't know if Trevor Penning is good. We don't know what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara. There are so many more questions just 5 days into camp than there were before we started this thing. And I've always said no news in camp is good news. Well, they've had anything but no news lately. It's bad news. And yeah, Lloyd, you're right. Hurst will play guard, but now you have 0 depth along a line that was already thin. Spencer says it was the 4th round pick. 0 depth. You can't have 0 depth along the offensive line. They have got to go out and sign a couple guys that either get cut or make a trade. I'm not sure what you trade, where you think where you can trade. Maybe you trade a cornerback. I don't know, but you've got to make a move. Maybe you trade a future draft pick, whatever it is. You got to get another lineman in here because, to me, Spence, the Saints are in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but you might have to call Sean Payton and see if I'll get us Denver. They've got O-line depth. Their skill players have a lot of question marks, but they've got O-linemen there in Denver. That's one thing when Payton got there, he made sure to shore up that O-line. So he might have to do another deal with them, which I think the first deal with them, the Saints won because Adam Troutman, he wasn't doing the Saints any good. So.
Well, I don't know what he saw in Adam Troutman. That's a whole nother story. But Sean Payton, that was my rant last week. I don't think he's going to be in a rush to be making a trade. Sean wants Taysom Hill. Well, guess what? The Saints
ain't getting him.
Saints want Taysom Hill too. That ain't happening. That will not happen. First of all, for any other reason you're just not going to give Sean Payton Taysom Hill. Period. Just not going to happen. All right. Well, we thank you. We've had a nice crowd watching our show today. We appreciate you joining the Bayou Bet Show every Monday and Thursday. Datitude is back as well. My podcast every Friday morning. We're switching our times up. I think we're going to start that this week. 10 a.m. Going to be 10 a.m. starts on Friday as the Athletics' Larry Holder is going to join us during football season. Have kind of a mixed cavalcade. Is that a word? Cavalcade of guests. And that'll begin on Friday. So don't forget to join us on Thursday. And then also every day this week, the rest of this week, we'll be previewing the NFC West. It starts with the Arizona Cardinals. Can't wait to talk about the Arizona Cardinals tomorrow. You know, I'll give you one little nugget, Spence, before we go off the air. There is only one team in the NFL that is an underdog right now for all 17 games. It's the Arizona Cardinals. They are predicted to go, basically, if you go by spreads, the Cardinals will go 0-17. They are underdogs in every single game right now. So if you think the Cardinals are going to be good, you can win some money right now. We don't know when Kyler Murray's coming back. We'll talk about it all tomorrow morning with our preview, and then it's the Rams on Wednesday, followed by the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks on Friday. Derek, thank you for joining us. Thanks for saying we had a great show. Jerry, I know you've been with us. All of our regulars and all of our newcomers, keep on, keeping on. We'll see you on Thursday. Peace and love, my friends.